Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories, where we play tales to take you away from today. And we have a heck of a good show today. We talk a bit more about the shadow as requested by Jarrod.
Ron, is that the diamond guy?
No, he is the Laguna Beach guy.
I don't believe that I know him.
Probably not. Then we have two more stories from you guys, and our featured segment this week is The Horror Express with Jason Dowd.
Oh, that should be good.
Yes, conductor, it should. So, let's get things started with this nonsense we call the 5-Minute Mystery.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by Mr. Obvious. You always know what to expect from Mr. Obvious because he's so darn predictable. If you want a challenge, then best avoid the obvious and choose Mr. Obscure instead.
Betty, come on in.
Oh, it's a wretched night out.
Here, let me have your coats.
Where's Helen, Arnold?
In making herself beautiful.
Everybody's going to be at the club at 8:30.
Oh, swell. But I wonder what's keeping that delivery boy.
Delivery boy?
Yes, I had a corsage made up for Helen. It was supposed to be delivered an hour ago. If you two don't mind, I'll run out and get it. Helen should be out in a few minutes.
Sure, go right ahead. Oh, that thunder, it's frightening.
Yeah, thunder never hurt anybody.
Just the same, I wish it would stop. Turn up the radio, George, and let's dance.
Well, I'm back. Isn't Helen ready yet?
I haven't heard a sound from her.
Say, I better go in and hustle her up a bit. I thought sure she'd be ready by now.
That's funny that she's not ready yet. Helen's usually so prompt.
George, Betty, call a doctor, quick.
Yeah, what is it? What's happened?
It's Helen here in the bathtub. She's fallen and hit her head.
Fallen? Good heavens.
Here, let's have a look.
Help me get her out of here.
In here on the bed. There.
Call a doctor, quick, please.
It's too late, Arnold. Helen's dead.
Huh?
Cruel blow on her head.
I can't believe it.
Say, that's odd.
What?
But Helen would be taking a bath with her makeup on. You put your makeup on after you take a bath.
Seems logical. You ought to know. And look, there's rain here on the floor by this bedroom window.
Lots of it. Hey, it's being opened wide.
What? What does it all mean, George?
Well, I don't know what it means yet, but I intend to find out right now. Betty, would you mind going back into the bathroom and closing the door behind you? Then scream as loudly as you can.
Well, I don't mind, but why?
Never mind. Just do as I say.
All right, if you think it'll help.
Just as I thought. Arnold, have you got a gun?
Oh, sure, it's there in the desk drawer. Be careful, it's loaded.
Well, now that I performed your little experiment, George, what are you doing with that gun?
I'm covering Arnold with it until the police arrive. You see, he's just murdered his wife.
How did George know Arnold killed his wife? We'll have the solution in just a moment. But first...
Okay, I'm no detective, but this one is as obvious as the makeup on her face or perhaps the water by the window. I think that this is a case that even Mr. Obvious would get right. But you never know, and we've been fooled before. So let's head back and see. This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by Mr. Obvious. You always know what to expect from the obvious.
And now for the solution of our mystery.
But, George, how? When did he do it?
Remember when Arnold left for the florist? He went all right, but he also went around to the back of the house and climbed into Helen's bedroom through the window. He found her in the bathroom, but she wasn't taking a bath. She was putting on her makeup. thanks to your observation, Betty. When I asked you to go into the bathroom and scream, I had a reason. You see, we heard you scream. We didn't hear Helen. Therefore, she didn't scream. Now I ask you, who could have entered Helen's bedroom without frightening her in the least way? Simply a bit of logic, my dear. Her husband.
Truly, a simple bit of logic. So simple that even Mr. Obscure would have trouble messing it up. Well, anyway, this 5-minute mystery was brought to you by Mr. Obvious. If it isn't obvious, then it's probably convoluted and complex. Which, of course, would mean it was being presented by Mr. Byzantine. Get it?
What's that you say?
I received this email from Jarrod Nicholas, who writes to us from somewhere in California. Ron, I love the podcast and can't live without it. I do have a question. On your show, you mentioned a place where I can find all of the Shadows shows in one place. I absolutely love the one you presented, and I want to listen to more of them. Where do I go? Also, can you tell me more about the history of the program? Jarrod. Well, Jarrod, I will have a link to the Shadow programs in the show notes and on the blog this week. The Shadow is the name of a collection of serialized dramas originally created in the 1930 pulp novels and then in a wide variety of shadow media. He was one of the most famous adventure heroes of 20th century North America. Originally just the host of a show, he later became the Shadow, the detective, and has been featured on the radio, in a long-running pulp magazine series, in American comic books, comic strips, television series, video games, and even featured films. Street and Smith entered into a broadcasting agreement with Blue Coal Oil in 1937. That fall, The Shadow hit the airwaves on September 26, 1937, on the Mutual Broadcasting System. Thus began the official radio drama with then 22-year-old Orson Welles, who starred as the lead character. It was a half-hour series on Sunday evenings that ran until December 26, 1954. By the way, Welles did not speak the signature line, "Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?" That was actually spoken by Frank Redrick, the original voice of the Shadow, when he was just a radio host. Reddick created the famous line by using a water glass next to his mouth to create the echo effect. The famous catchphrase was accompanied by an excerpt from Opus 31 of Camille. How about that? After Welles departed the show in 1938, Bill Johnstone was chosen to replace him and voiced the character for the next 5 seasons. Following Johnstone's departure, the Shadow was portrayed by such characters as Brett Morrison, the longest tenure, with 10 years total, John Archer, and then Stephen Courtley. The Shadow is still making news today and has even been known to team up with Batman. Well, Jarrod, I hope that answers your question. I surely did love doing the research. And now, this word from Audible. Today's podcast is being brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, computer, Kindle, whatever you have, you can listen to Audible on it. So what am I listening to right now? I am a true fan of science fiction, and my monthly choices at Audible trend that way. One of the best books that I have purchased comes from the pen of Arthur C. Clarke. It is the classic tale, Rendezvous with Rama, narrated by Peter Gammon. At first, only a few things are known about a celestial object that astronomers dub Rama. It is huge, weighing more than 10 trillion ton, and is hurtling through the solar system at an inconceivable speed. A space probe confirms the unthinkable. Rama is no natural object. It is an interstellar spacecraft. Earth science prepare for mankind's first encounter with an alien intelligence. Now, Rendezvous with Rama did something that only 3 books in history have ever done. It won the trifecta of awards. It has the Hugo, the Nebula, and the John C. Campbell Awards for Best Science Fiction Story. Incredible. But who was Clarke? Sir Arthur Charles Clarke was a British science fiction writer, futurist, inventor, undersea explorer, and of course, television series host. He wrote the book and co-wrote the screenplay for the 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of the most influential films of all time. You can have his book, Rendezvous with Rama, today. Here is what Audible has set up for us. Audible is offering us a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can get your free book today. And now, it's time for your stories.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
This story comes from down south. Dovey Bell from Lawrenceville, Georgia, sent this one in. Hello from Lawrenceville. We have a fun yearly tradition here called the City of Lawrenceville Summer Concert Series. These are free concerts held in the downtown area on the Lawrenceville lawn. Now, one would think that you are safe from the paranormal here. After all, some of these concerts can get pretty loud. One year I had an experience I will never forget, and I will share it with you and your listeners. My husband and I are huge Zac Brown fans. We can't afford to attend their concert, so the next best thing is a very good tribute band called 20 Ride. They were part of the concert series, and they are fantastic. My grandfather was also a fan of the Zac Brown Band. We had planned to attend this concert together, but he passed away unexpectedly from hip surgery complications. We were all devastated by his death. He was only 69 years old and was in very good health. At the memorial service, I felt like he was there with me. We talked about his love for music and specifically the Zac Brown Band. I mentioned that if there was a chance of him coming back, it would be for the upcoming 20 Ride concert. The day arrived, and we were getting ready to go. I walked over to the picture I had on the mantle of my grandfather, picked it up, and whispered, "This one's for you, Papa." I felt a chill go through my body and knew that he had heard me. We left early to get as close as possible to the main stage. There was no way to get right to it because of the VIP section. But we were on the first row after that. Close enough to see, but not reach out and touch. We were about 3 songs in when I felt something touch my right hand. Thinking it was my husband, I tried to grasp it back, but I felt nothing. I looked at my husband, and his arms were raised up, clapping to the music. I thought, how strange. But there were a lot of people around me. During the show, the band played a montage of pictures from previous concerts. Lo and behold, one of the photos was that of my grandfather at another concert we had attended some time back. He had a broad smile on his face, and it felt like to me that he was looking right at me. 20 Ride was performing one of my favorite songs called My Old Man. This song hit me like a ton of bricks and made me remember just how special my papa was. I felt something touch me again, and this time when I looked down, I saw a disembodied hand. It had a ring on its finger, and I knew that ring well. My grandfather was never without his wedding band. It was a very unique fire-treated titanium band with X's and O's carved into it. I'd never seen anything like it before. I smiled and whispered again, "This one's for you, Papa." Dovey Bell, Lawrenceville, Georgia. Dovey, I loved this story. It actually sent a chill down my spine and a tear to my eye. Thank you for sharing it. While not a die-hard fan of Zac Brown, I surely do love his music. Next to Chicken Fried, My Old Man is one of my favorites. The video for it is nothing short of amazing. I thought I would take a minute to read some lyrics from that song. Copyrights forbid me from playing it, but the second verse really brings home the meaning to your story. Please enjoy it. My old man. Feel the callus on his hands and dusty overalls. My old man. Now I finally understand I have a lot to learn from my old man. Thank you, Dovey. This next story comes from Mason from Laguna Beach, California. Mason calls it Charged Shadow. We were living in a house on Laguna Beach that had been there since the 1920s. In its history, it had been a speakeasy, a brothel, and a house for smuggling illegal immigrants. One day, my new wife and I were having an argument. I can't even recall what it was about. She walked down the block to get a cup of coffee and cool off. I was left alone in the house. The way the place was built was incredibly haphazard. There was a bedroom and a living room on one side, then a bathroom with 2 entrances. On the other side of the bathroom was a hallway that had windows on one side and 2 bedrooms on the other. So, from our bedroom, I could look across the hall into the bathroom, then through the bathroom down the second hallway. I was standing at my dresser and noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned, and there was, honest to God, a black figure. This gives me goosebumps just typing it 17 years later. It was maybe 3 feet tall, and it was only vaguely humanoid. It reminded me of black scribbles, like someone had scribbled a human shape, but the scribbles moved. It looked like electricity arcing. That's the best way to describe it. There was no sound that I could remember, and when I saw it, I really wasn't afraid. Then it noticed me looking at it. I can't say that it turned around, it just focused on me, I guess. Then I was scared. I didn't move, didn't scream, nothing. I was just frozen. Then the thing came at me, rushing down the hall towards me. I have no idea what it intended, but as soon as it entered the bathroom, the door closest to me just slammed shut. I screamed and yelled for my wife, but I knew she wasn't home. I went outside and waited until she got home about 10 minutes later. Now, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe I saw anything supernatural, but I know I saw something. I just don't know what it was. Mason, Laguna Beach, California. Well, Mason, I've heard stories like this before, and most people don't know what they saw. Experts would put this in the ghost category, but personally, this sounds much more malevolent. Thank you for sharing it with us. It truly is creepy. Do you have a story that you want to tell on the show? If you do, we want to hear it. It can be about any subject and from any genre. Heck, it doesn't even have to be true. Original fiction or stories from the public domain are quite welcome. To submit them, just head to ronsamazingstories.com and click on the Story Submissions banner. Fill out the form, and soon your story will be heard. Do you have a story but don't want to write it? That's okay too. Just leave your contact information, a brief description of your story, and I'll get back to you. We can write it together. However, if you don't do it, your story remains just that, your story. Why not make it our story?
Train ride that hopes to thrill you a little and chill you a little. Patience as we pull into Death Station.
Welcome to the Horror Express. All tickets are collected upon entrance, unless, of course, you're dead. In that case, passage is free. Oh, look! The boys are on board. Let's go over and say hi. Guys, hey, how are you?
Hello, conductor. Say, do you even have a real name?
I did, when I was alive. But now I'm just the conductor.
How did you die?
Dining car accident. It was the coffee.
Coffee?
Well, not so much the coffee itself, but the axe-wielding barista.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have asked for more sugar. Big mistake.
I know what you mean.
Well, Jason, how about that hug now?
We've got a show to do, conductor. Maybe later?
Suit yourself.
Much later.
Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very well. I just had an excellent visit with my brother. He was here for 3 days, hasn't been up here for 10 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
I haven't seen him. He lives down in New Mexico, and we talk all the time, of course, but having him physically here was a real treat. So I'm still on a high after that.
Well, it sounds like it. I mean, I've realized how expensive it is to travel. So it seems like, okay, it's not that far, but I was going to go to New Orleans a couple weeks ago, and it was going to cost me $850 for me and Fran round trip. I couldn't believe it.
You're kidding.
No. And you know how close I am to New Orleans?
You could probably drive it.
Yeah, I could.
Well, what I've noticed is the Southwest $60 thing is a thing of the past.
It is. Last minute, got to get away deals are usually start at $150 per direction. So
Wow.
it is long gone, unfortunately.
But you know what, Jason?
What's that?
There's nothing scary about that other than paying the bill.
That's right.
So far, the feedback from people about these shorter versions of the Horror Express have been positive. They like us when we talk. They say that we're a good team and we have good chemistry. I didn't foster this chemistry, so you must have did it.
You know what? I did major in chemistry, but I don't think I'm too good with that kind of chemistry. I think that just kind of happens.
All right, Jason. Well, I know that we've got an exciting email to get us going today, and I think we both agree that this is a pretty scary topic.
You know, it's been one of our popular topics besides the dolls, and I kind of was a little shocked because I didn't know if too many people would even know what it was when we first brought it out.
Why don't you read the email and we'll talk about it?
Yes, I'm done giving them the suspense. So here's the email, guys. It says, "Hello, Ron and Jason. I just finished up listening to all those episodes of the Horror Express. My 3 favorite episodes were the dolls and the black-eyed kids. I have always been fascinated with BEKs. I have my own theory as to who and what they are. One thing you guys didn't do was answer what you think they are. I would love to hear your answers on one of these new mini episodes." Jacqueline Banks from Madison, Wisconsin.
Well, the first thing I have to say, Jacqueline, is I am a Wisconsin native myself. I was born there, and I lived my first 3 years of life in Dodgeville, Wisconsin, not too far from Madison.
Been to Madison myself, too. So my wife is from Milwaukee.
So are we going to do this?
You want to start off, or do you want me to throw my answer in the pot first?
Well, what I thought we would do is kind of maybe to lead into it. I went back through the archives of Ron's Amazing Stories, and I found a typical Black-Eyed Kid story that was sent in by a listener. And I thought to warm us up, I would read this Black-Eyed Kid story.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. This was sent in by Logan Taylor from Yuma, Arizona. Now, he called this story Terror at Alamo Lake. Early last year, my wife and I were married. We both love ghost stories and decided that our honeymoon would be to travel the known ghost towns of Arizona, something both of us have wanted to do since we started dating. Let me tell you about Arizona's ghost towns. Wikipedia lists over 100 of them in our state alone, and this should not come as any surprise. Because of the great gold rush of the 1800s, there were hundreds of little towns that failed after the gold petered out. But not all of these were of any interest to us because we wanted to investigate only those with strong paranormal activity. One of these towns was Alamo Crossing. This town was unique because it had nothing to do with the gold rush. Alamo Crossing is a ghost town in the Mojave Country that was settled around 1890. The town's death was due to it being submerged in order to create Alamo Lake. Many ghostly tales have come from this area, including the woman in white who is said to wander the shores looking for home, which is why we added it to our list. After we were all settled in our lodgings, we made the drive out to Alamo Crossing. On first appearances, it's just a lake, but the remnants of the town are still visible. Old rusted trucks, a scarred building, and a fenced-off area where the blacksmith shop was are all that is left. We had a great time looking around. No ghosts, but we had a scare or two as we found snakes and even a coyote's den. We were heading back to the car when I spotted a child standing near an old rusted pickup. I thought, how strange for a kid to be here. My wife insisted that we go to the child to see if he was in trouble. When we got to the pickup, there was no one there. We looked around, and then a voice came from behind us. "I need a ride into town. Can you please help me?" We both turned and saw the child, and while I can't say how my wife felt, my knees almost buckled and I felt a wave of nausea. What I saw was something right out of a Stephen King's Children's of the Corn. He stood about 4 feet tall, wore ragged clothes and a wide-brim hat just like the Quakers wear. However, it was his eyes that drew my attention. They were as black as night and seemed to look right through to my soul. There was not a cloud in the sky, so there was no reason for the eyes to be so dilated. In fact, I remember looking at my wife to see if she was seeing this and how blue her eyes were in contrast. He replied, "Can you help me?" The voice was so creepy. I wanted to run, and I felt the urge to do so, but it was my wife that spoke. "What's wrong, honey?" With that, the boy started to walk towards our car. We both looked at each other and followed. When we all arrived, the boy pointed and again repeated, "Can you help me?" Warning bells went off in my head. A voice was screaming, "You cannot help this child. Get in the car and drive away now." My wife reached out for the child. He immediately recoiled, started screaming, and then ran around our car in circles. It was a crazy sight, and with each passing revolution, he went faster and faster. Finally, he broke off from this orbit and ran into the scrubland. We tried to follow, but it was as if he had vanished. We got into the car and drove out of there.
Wow.
What do you think, Jason?
That's pretty intense. You got to admit. I mean, it's something that you would only hear in a horror story, right?
Pretty much. It could have gone a whole long different way, though, in some of those horror movies.
True.
So, that's not a typical story, but it has all of the elements. A child wanting to get into the car or come inside, or wanting you to do something, feed them, whatever. Always a simple request, and there's always the same dread, feeling of nausea, feeling of fear, like, I've got to run. All of the fight or flight instincts just kick in whenever this type of story comes about.
So with that story, what do you think it is?
Well, you and I were talking before, and I kind of went through what the 3 schools of thought were on these guys. Number 1 is that they are demons. The problem that I have with the demon idea is that, as far as I know, demons don't ask for permission. The second school of thought is that they're some sort of alien, that they are trying to learn what they can about the human race, and yet they're working under strict rules in order to gather this information. And then the third school of thought is that there's some sort of creature, like a zombie or a vampire or something like that, and we all know vampires can't come in unless they're invited.
That's true.
So am I avoiding the answer to the question? You know, not having experienced it, to me, it's a hard question to answer. I honestly don't know. And if I remember correctly on the show that we did, I don't think my view has changed.
I don't remember what I said during that show myself. You know, I never really thought about the aliens until now, but I've never seen an alien. So I don't really know, do they look like us? Do they not look like us? Can they shapeshift? I don't know. I mean, that brought up a whole new concept for that. I truly believe it's an urban legend in my case. We were talking, earlier, and it's easy to get caught up in stuff, especially if you're kind of caught off guard. And when you see a kid coming up to a house, you're generally used to that, or a car, whatever it may be. You're generally used to that with an adult. So when a kid comes up to you, it's a different atmosphere. You're going to react differently. You're going to have different emotions inside of you, and you're going to think differently because kids are more innocent. Kids they shouldn't be in a situation like that. So it puts you in a higher state of panic to begin with because you don't know what's wrong. So I have a feeling that there could be a little bit of a elevated hysteria over something like that, and it really could be nothing at all. It could be that they have dilated pupils. I've never really seen any actual photographs of this except for the stuff that people have made up themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I have nothing to base on. I don't know what it is. I don't know. They say that all the whites of the eyes are gone, but a pupil can't dilate to that size. So, that's what kind of makes me wonder what it is. I don't believe it's a ghost. And if I think the closest thing that I could say would either be, in my order, it would be a urban legend, mess with a bunch of hysteria and things that people conjure up in their heads and freak themselves out about. 2, it would be demonic. 3, it could be alien. I never thought of alien. I think that's a brilliant, concept of it. And the reason I say demons, and I know you said that demons don't ask permission, but with the demon experience I had, both of them, they could not physically do anything with me because of the fact that I didn't give in myself my free will to allow them to. They can try stuff with you. They will try to mess with your head, and they will try to do things to get you to break that down, to give in to them. But they kind of do have to listen to you. And if you tell them to go, they kind of have to go. They don't want to go easily, but they do go. That's why you have these exorcisms and stuff like that. So they do have to ask kind of permission. And when I had mine, the 2 that I dealt with, they tried to screw me over to the point where it broke me down, but I never let them break me down, and I never let them get into and take over. So it is possible, and demons can shapeshift. Demons can come into any form that will either comfort you enough to let you in, or they will come up and scare you enough to freeze you to say, okay, I can't deal with this. Just do whatever you need to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that out of all of that, I still think it's going to be more hysteria. But I think logically, it very well could be a demon.
All right, so I'm hearing that you are actually leaning more towards, you said urban legend, mm-hmm. but you're actually leaning more towards demonology here.
If they do exist, I think it would probably be more demonic. But since I've never seen one, there's never been any pictures of them. But there was a green child, completely green, and he lived in France. And they actually took a picture of him, and you could see that the hue was not black, and it was not brown, and it was not white, because it was a black and white picture. He went to the doctor, and they actually found that he was green. He just was green. And we actually have pictures of that, so it's something to reference to. They have never caught a black-eyed kid, and I've never seen a picture of one. And like I said, except for the ones that people have manipulated to be a black-eyed kid. So I don't know what it looks like. And since I can't see anything, it's like Sasquatch. There's more than enough possibilities that they do exist. However, we've never seen one. And that's the same thing with this. We've never seen one. We've never documented it. We've never been able to take pictures of one. We don't have any video of one that I know of. So, unfortunately, until we actually have something a little bit more concrete, we have footprints of Sasquatch. We don't really have much of a black-eyed child. So we have things that could sway a different way, pending I have more information and some more concrete proof to actually look at.
I am doing a search here now, just on the internet, on the fly, looking for actual pictures of black-eyed kids. And quite honestly, everything I'm seeing is doctored. Mm-hmm. I am pretty good with Photoshop myself, and every one of these is someone's creation, art.
Absolutely.
I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing some pretty good attempts here, but I can obviously tell that they took an original photograph and doctored it. Talk to me as a photographer. What would it take to create a picture of a black-eyed child?
Not much. All you really have to do is know a couple of layers, know how to do some effects to it to make the eye look a little bit more realistic, and you're done.
All right, well, let me try another search here, just real quickly. I don't see any proof of black-eyed kids. So I'm kind of with you. I think that if they do exist, then probably they would have to be either demonic or cryptid.
I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, and I think for me to actually believe the photo, I would actually like to see it come from a scientific lab.
Yeah.
You can actually see old photographs of some very serious ailments that people suffered from, and they were taken by doctors to study. So this is where I'd like to see something like that, an actual photograph that is real, that they can study from. And I think that's what I would probably take as proof.
Well, let me approach this another way. Why have we never heard a story of someone that has invited a black-eyed kid into their house and had interactions with it that way? Why are all of these stories the same, that the person gets away with a feeling of dread? Never have I read a story, yeah, I brought them in and chatted with them and then they left.
Well, supposedly the thing disappears when they get inside the house. And that's where the spirit then takes over and possessing it, doing terrible things like that. But you're right. I've never seen one where they've actually had this child come in and the child leaves and everything's fine. But I have seen a lot of human anomalies where things just are not normal and they look strange. So there is a possibility that somebody might actually have no color around the eyes and the iris, just the pupil itself. Or they have black eyes, so it looks like they got one big pupil. So there is a possibility that that's it. And when you look at that, it could scare you. You've probably seen some things that are pretty horrifying on people. You try not to be horrified by it, but you can't help it. It's human nature. So it gives you a vibe about that person, even though there's really nothing bad about it. It's stuff that we just unfortunately have So there's a good possibility that if anybody has seen one of them, that could be all it is, and it was new to them, so it freaked them out, and it gave them a sense of fear because it's not normal. And honestly, to see a black eye without an iris, just one big iris, is a little horrifying. You can visualize what it would look like, and it would shock most people.
So I think we've talked about this before, is that the first true black-eyed kids stories took place in the late 1800s, but there were no documented stories until the late 40s or 50s. Does that surprise you?
A little bit, because you know what? We've been seeing UFOs in the hieroglyphics in the Mayan temples and Egypt and all these other places, and this goes back to BC time. So I'm surprised that it is not documented, except for in the 1940s.
And it is on the uptick. The number of reported stories is on the increase, and it's including countries, Germany, the UK, France. There's stories all over the world. This is not just located here in the States, like everybody seems to think it is, that this is a typical United States issue. It's all over the world. I'm seeing one right here in Portland, Oregon. That's scary.
You know, I got something that might shed some light on this too. What took place in the 1940s that was a really industrial change to our world, other than World War II?
The atom bomb?
Yes. What is the atom bomb used with? Nuclear energy, right?
Well, atomic.
What has happened? Atomic energy. What has happened in Russia and in Germany and all these other places? They have had, now not necessarily Germany, but Germany had, atomic energy there. These nukes, these plants that have exploded. Look at Chernobyl. And look at some of these places, 3 Mile Island and all these other places, and now in Japan. What if that is an anomaly from some of the exposure to the atomic bomb that happened in Japan, or these leaks that happened in Russia?
So you're saying a hybrid human?
Possibly, yeah. It could have had, maybe when they were born, maybe something happened to them because of the levels of radiation that happened. I mean, we didn't have that before, but we have that now. And if it seems like the stories are growing and growing and growing, Japan just had a major meltdown. Half the Pacific Ocean is toxic with radiation. You had Chernobyl, you had 3 Mile Island, and I think there was another one too, somewhere else. I can't remember. Where these major leaks are happening and explosions at these nuclear plants. And plus that, we do have the nuclear waste that comes from these nuclear plants that are being put into the earth somewhere. If that's leaking and it gets into our water system even a little bit, we don't know what that does to us, but I do know that we've seen frogs with 5-6 legs, snakes with 2 heads, all kinds of weird stuff that have happened since. And so what if this is an anomaly from something like that?
Well, I can add fuel to your fire here and say that today's story came from Arizona. How far away is Nevada from Arizona?
Right, and that's where all those nukes were tested.
Hundreds of them. I don't know if it was hundreds, but quite a few anyway.
At least 10.
And that's not that far from Arizona.
No, it's not.
So there may be some truth to that. It may be a new form of human that has some funny ideas.
Yeah, just some weird gene that got screwed up.
The one thing that also bothers me about the black-eyed kids phenomena is I don't remember ever reading any about black-eyed adults. Why? Why children? Why not black-eyed adults?
I have an idea about something like that. They're trying to show a story about being scared and lured into it. Well, honestly, you probably would not allow a black-eyed adult near you.
No.
Yet on the other hand, a child is a lot likely to gain your trust an adult. If it is part urban legend and maybe some part reality, it's very possible that could be how come you don't hear about the adults, because they don't talk about them. And when they do become an adult, maybe it changes. Maybe their eyes go back to the way it is. I mean, like I said, I've seen people that have actually changed eye colors, and I've actually seen people that have had 2 blue eyes turn into one green and one brown. So it does happen. I have seen that of before and afters. And obviously you could do that with those little, contact lenses. Maybe as they get older, maybe it goes away.
I don't know, Jason. This is, I think, why Jacqueline didn't think that we answered the question. Because there's so many questions and there are no answers. No. All I can tell is as I'm going through the internet and looking here, the number of stories is on the increase. And so more and more people are seeing these. Now, going back to saying that the first documented stories came in the late 40s, 50s, Well, if a new species started about that time, here we are, 70 years later?
Yeah.
Maybe the population is getting large enough to where they're becoming more and more of these things?
Yeah, very possible.
I'm just thinking out loud here, trying to support the idea that it is a creature that we created because of our own stupidity.
That's true.
I honestly don't know. So, Jacqueline, let me answer your question with, I don't know. Jason?
I don't know either. Until I find some actual proof where I could actually study it a little bit or run into one myself, I still think it's going to be an urban legend. So I'm still saying that it's probably more likely than not that they don't exist.
All right, Jason. Well, I'm pleased. So let's take a break from that and fill us in on what's going on in Jason's world.
Well, I just had my 19th wedding anniversary last weekend.
Oh, wow.
And we went down to Miami, which was really cool. They have an amazing science museum. If you ever get a chance to go down there, please do that. It's well worth the time. We went shopping on the South Beach, A1A. Walked by the famous Versace house, which is now a hotel. So if you have some money, you can stay at, I think his sister's name is Donatella. Her room, you can stay in his rooms. You can eat there. It's an amazing place. So we got to go there, and then we went to the brand new Marlins Park baseball game, because that's actually what me and Fran did for our first major trip, and that's our first baseball game. So I decided to go down there again, and it was a lot of fun. Other than that, I've just been working with my dog treats, and I am going to Orlando this weekend to meet a girl named Izzy Metven. She's been on BBC television and theatrical performances all throughout the UK. And so we're going to be doing a day in the life of Izzy Metven and kind of get a little one-on-one to learn about her. And I'm going to take you on point of view with rides with her. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's what I've been up to.
What program is that for? Because you do so many.
That's the AME television show, but it's a side section of that, which is a day in the life of.
Sounds amazing.
It's going to be fun.
Do you have a general link that people can go to just to find everything you do? I know you got quite a few.
I need that.
You should create like a homepage landing page, because I know you have the photography, you have the radio gig, you have the television gig, you have the what am I forgetting? The author gigs and the doggy treats.
Yep. I do need a central hub, don't I? I need Grand Central Station. That's what I need.
That's kind of what I've done with Ron's Amazing Stories. Everything branches from there. So all I have to do is say one URL and people can find whatever I'm doing.
Well, I do kind of have something similar to that. I have the AMEmagazine.com, which takes you to the radio, television, and magazine. And then if you go to Imagination Art Studios, you can get to the art stuff that I do. And if you go to GladysGoodies.com, that will take you to the goodies. So I only got really 3 URLs, but I really kind of want to make is a website about me and all the things that I've done and the things that I see, the things that I do, how I think, and have it branch off to all the other stuff. I was thinking about call it I Am Jason Dowd, but I think that's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know if I like that yet, but it needs to have my name in it somewhere.
I am Jason Dowd. Come to my site and learn how important I am.
And respect your overlords.
Just because of all the things you do, I don't even know how you get them done in a general week.
I don't sleep, man. Caffeine is my friend.
I had to give up caffeine because it was causing me stomach issues. So I don't know what I'm going to do these days if I get as busy as you are.
Well, don't go to any of those energy drinks, man. Those things are crazy. They kill people. I mean, I actually know 3 kids that drank them like crazy down here. All 3 of them have liver failure. And it's ridiculous. So, I mean, only use those if you really have to.
Well, let's close this off with telling people what's going on at GladysGoodies.com, because this episode of Ron's Amazing Stories is being brought to you by Gladys Goodies. Take it away, Jason.
Well, we're introducing some new fish treats that are for cats coming out soon. So we're working on that, and I just uploaded a whole bunch of new products that we have for leashes and collars, and there's going to be a lot more stuff coming in, a lot more toys. So there's a lot of swag up there for you. And I did a pretty significant price reduction because we got better pricing on our food.
Really?
if you want to go up there and check that out, you'll be glad you did. And use the coupon code RONS for 20% off.
That's RONS. Head to Gladys Goodies today. Did that sound cheesy?
No, sounded awesome.
All right, well, Jason, I have always had a great time talking with you. I can't get enough of it. And now that we're doing this monthly, I'm a happy camper.
Me too. This has been a lot of fun.
All right, well, thank you, Jason.
No problem. Oh, should we tell them what we're thinking about doing next time?
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
I think I have found the closest thing that we have to time travel. And I think that you guys would be very surprised on how to do it and how to tap into it. So I'm going to try to tell you how to do that next time.
Well, you know what? Jason and I talked about this before the show today, and I agree with him. There's no reason we can't time travel. In fact, I'm going to time travel today.
I am too, man.
All right, Jason. So next time, Jason and I are going to be talking about time travel. With that, I say thank you for listening to us. And Jason, I'm going to give you the last word.
All right, well, I guess it's time to get off this train. You are in your bag, right?
No, I actually have a physical station that it stops me at.
Oh, you're lucky. So I get to get thrown off? All right, well, you know what? Do it gently this time.
I don't have anything to do with it. I just put the bag on the hook and off you go.
All right, well, then hook me up and let's get this ball going.
All right, well, we got to head back to the car here. All right, Jason, we're back here. Good luck. Last time you had some problems with some sticks. Hopefully this time it goes better.
Oh my God, a rock.
Welcome back to Old Time Radio Commercials. This time we clean things up with two famous products that we all know and love. This first one came from 1958, and the quality of the sound is astounding. I doubt Mr. Clean needs any more introduction.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute.
Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it.
Floors, doors, walls, halls, white sidewall tires, and old golf balls.
Sinks, stoves, bathtubs he'll do. He'll even help clean laundry too.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute.
Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it.
Can he clean a kitchen sink?
Quicker than a wink.
Can he clean a window sash?
Faster than a flash.
Can he clean a dirty mirror?
He'll make it bright and clearer.
Can he clean a diamond ring?
Mr. Clean cleans anything.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute. Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Our second one is just as famous as Mr. Clean. When Ajax was introduced in 1947, the slogan for the original scrubbing powder was stronger than dirt.
Use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Clean pots and pans, just like a whiz.
Ajax cuts grease faster than any other leading cleanser.
Use the pain, the elbow tax, when you start cleaning with Ajax.
Ajax really polishes as it cleans.
So use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Float the dirt right down the drain.
My gosh, they're right. Foaming action Ajax makes even the dirtiest pan shine like new in a jiffy.
So use Ajax.
That's all I have for this time. If you have any favorites or recordings of old-time commercials, let me know. Podcast over. I want to thank Jarrod Nicholas, Dovey Bell, Mason, and our very own Jason Dowd for contributing to this one. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, just head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find an amazing number of links that will fit every need. Do you want to help the show? The best thing that you can do is to tell your friends all about it. And please do leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. This helps us to grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.